Welcome back to AP US History. We'll be talking about the 1990s. One of the more significant things happening in the 1990s, the attack on American soil, the Twin Towers in New York, which will directly relate to us going after Al Qaeda. Um, One of the things that will happen in the 1990s, early 1990s, is something called Operation Desert Storm, where Iran will invade Kuwait because they want her oil and they want to absorb that country into theirs. Saddam Hussein is the one who will orchestrate this. The U.S., along with the United Nations, condemns Saddam Hussein and demand that a deadline be set for Iraq to withdraw from Kuwait. Because they refuse, the United States and the coalition forces will build up troops in Saudi Arabia, and eventually they will launch an attack on Saddam Hussein. These were some of the oil wells that Saddam Hussein's troops destroyed as they were withdrawing from Kuwait. This is Saddam Hussein, a dictator in Iraq, wanting to take over his Arab neighbors. President Bush Sr. And this Schwarzkopf in the back orchestrated this attack. It lasted for about 100 hours. General Colin Powell was a top commander. He was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during this Gulf War. Schwarzkopf, he was in command, overall command of this Persian Gulf War. And so on January 16th, 1991, the coalition launched cruise missile attacks and stealth fighters and knocked out strategic installations in the heart of Iraq. After 6 weeks of airstrikes, then the ground troops moved in, and that will last for about 100 hours. This shows some of the carnage of the war. Literally hundreds of thousands of Iraqi soldiers are killed during this war, and Kuwait will be liberated. As an outcome of this war, Osama bin Laden objects to the United States being in Saudi Arabia. He is from Saudi Arabia. His father was a wealthy businessman, and he will inherit millions. And he believes that the United States has committed a terrible affront to the nation or the religion of Islam, and he will orchestrate an attack against the United States. Bush is elected president in 1992 after Reagan, and he will be responsible for bringing this war to a conclusion. Clinton will run against him in 1992. In 1998, he had been elected President Bush, but in 1992, he will be unseated by Clinton. There was another third candidate named Ross Perot who will split the conservative vote and give Clinton a chance to become President of the United States. This shows the election of 1992, and Clinton is going to be brought into the White House. Shows Hillary Clinton, his wife, one of his advisors in his administration. She tried to institute some health care reforms, but was unsuccessful. NAFTA is created during his tenure as president. This is a North American Free Trade Agreement between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, reducing any kind of tariffs. As far as the military was concerned, he brought about don't ask, don't tell if you're a homosexual in the military. Monica Lewinsky scandal. This to the left there shows her, and on the right, she had an affair with Clinton in the Oval Office while he was president. He lied about it under oath, and charges are brought up for impeachment. He later confesses that he did have an affair with her, and the impeachment vote was taken, and charges are brought against him. He is never found guilty, and so the impeachment just goes away. And essentially, he will have that stigma on his presidency. The Branch Davidians were a group in the United States, in Texas, survivalist. The ATF claimed that he had illegal firearms and he was a threat, and so they storm his compound and people are killed. Compound burned to the ground. Certainly a tragedy. The Oklahoma bombing, Timothy McVeigh blew up the federal building in Texas because he was fighting back against he said, in retaliation for the Waco, where Timothy McVeigh, but the Branch Davidians were killed. Anyway, he's going to, hundreds of people are going to die in this bombing, in the Oklahoma City bombing. Essentially domestic terrorism. Columbine tragedy occurs during Clinton's administration. 2 young men kill numerous people in a high school in Colorado, which 12 were killed before the 2 gunmen committed suicide. Again, people calling for more gun control in the United States to reduce this violence. New technology, a World Wide Web is created. During his tenure, the global warming issue comes to forefront. Too many greenhouse gases, and essentially helping melt the polar ice caps and destroying habitat for polar bears and other species. This shows the effects of the greenhouse gas. Global warming seems to be a little bit inconclusive. Again, warming up the planet. Kyoto Protocol, nations get together and say they're going to reduce the greenhouse gases. The United States never signed on. Now India and China are the 2 big polluters of the world in terms of the atmosphere. Obama is elected first black president of the United States. He will institute what they call Obamacare, giving health care to everyone in the United States. Again, here's a picture of the Oklahoma bombing. Rodney King beating also took place in the 1990s, and this sparked riots in Los Angeles area. Rodney King led a high-speed chase. He was arrested and severely beaten by the LAPD. And later he will receive a civil settlement over $2 million for police brutality. Again, the Rodney King incident sparking violence throughout or parts of LA. O.J. Simpson murder, accused of killing his wife and her friend, never convicted of that. And it was a year-long trial. This was in the Los Angeles area. Although most of the evidence pointed towards him, he was acquitted of the guilt. There was the glove that he was supposed to put on that belonged to him, but it wouldn't fit. I guess it shrank. The Ruby Ridge incident, people were killed by FBI because they were claimed they had guns, and they stormed their home, and a family on Ruby Ridge in Idaho, and people are going to be killed. So this is part of the militia movement that came about in the 1990s, people fighting back against the government. There's the Twin Towers, and there will be there will be an explosion in the basement. Eventually, airplanes will fly into them in 2000, and both buildings will be destroyed. U.S. Embassy bombed by terrorists in Kenya. Osama bin Laden was given, his group was given credit for it. And we'll stop right there.